All right, this tutorial we're going to talk about least common multiples. It's very similar to greatest common factor when you're looking at a pair or a list of numbers, but instead of finding smaller numbers that multiply into that, you're in fact going the opposite direction. So you're finding numbers that are larger than all of the numbers given, but you are finding the smallest number. Pen. The smallest number that has both original numbers as its factors. So it's like your GCF, but you're going in the opposite direction. And there's two different ways that I'm going to show you how to find least common multiples of each of these numbers. So there's the multiplication method, where you take your number and you list all of the multiples of that number. So you're going to take that number times 1, then times 2, then times 3, then times 4, etc., until you get a substantial amount of those numbers. So we have 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is 12, times 4 is 16, and you would keep going until you would feel like you have enough. And we'll go back and check after we get the second number. So into 10, 10 times 1 is 10, 20, 30, 40, and we'll stop right there for now. So none of these numbers are in common, and it looks like the list of numbers for the 10 gets larger than the numbers of the 4, which is why the 10 is bigger than the 4. So let's keep going with the 4. We stopped at 4 times 4 to get 16. 4 times 5 is the next one, is 20. And right there, we have our first common number between both of those lists. We have a 20 right here in the 4, 4 times 5, and then 20 right here in the 10, 10 times 2. So 20 is your least common multiple. Now the key word there is least. You would end up continuing this list all the way up, and you would end up getting 40 again with the 4, which is in common, but you want to find the smallest number that is in common between all of those. The other way you could find least common multiples between two numbers is with our good old trusty factor tree. 3 is prime, 2 and 2. So we have 12 as 2 times 2 times 3. And let's do the same thing with our 18. 9 times 2, 3 times 3. 2, 3, and 3. So those are the prime factorizations of both of the 12 and the 18. Now, when we were finding greatest common factor, we circled the numbers that were in common. We're still going to do the exact same thing, but instead of that being our answer, we are going to only use that pair of numbers once when writing out the entire multiplication. So we're going to start out by writing first the unique numbers. So we have 2 times 3. Then we're going to write one of our pair, and then one of our other pair. And when you multiply all those numbers together, 2 times 3 is 6, times another 2 times 3, which is 6, you end up getting your least common multiple as 2 being 36. So it doesn't matter which method you use. Multiplication, if you are familiar with your multiples of 2, 3, 4, and you can count up that way, or if you are comfortable using a factor tree, just make sure that you're not using the same method as we did for GCF after you circle it. Once you circle it, you're going to list that number once in your multiplication at the end.